creature, that suddenly makes it representative of every member of its species or population or whatever, So I struggle with how reductionist I think most people want to be about stuff like this, where Bigfoot's all got to be one way and aliens all got to be one way. When I think, just again, using humans as an example, I mean, think of all the different cultures and societies and factions and religions, and then like specific sects like within those religions. We have just in our one species, our one relatively tiny, inconsequential species in this universe, why should anybody else be any less complicated? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, again, and I'm just going to use Bigfoot as an example. I could use the same as Mothman, but let's look at it this way. They didn't grow up watching Leave It to Beaver or Father Knows Best. They whatever, how they exist, compassion, we learn from being a little child. And hopefully, if you have good parents, you learn values. If you have parents that are not so good, you're not going to learn good values when you grow up. It's simple as that. But compassion, not everybody has that. Some people are lacking compassion. Look what happened in Germany in the 30s,
sure.
When the Nazi power came in. Okay, you had a couple crazy people, but then how many tens and hundreds of thousands of people followed it, and committed all these horrid crimes of gasking people, shooting people in the head. They went along with it. So to sit there and say that creatures like Bigfoot or Mothman, they give off orbs, they're here to, serve man. If you believe that, that's fine. You can live in your own little dream world. Now, again, I don't even know if Bigfoot exists as a creature, because if we go back to, like I talked to a couple of years ago, the Indian woman for the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, they talked about in the 1880s, 1870s, like Bigfoot would come into their village and run off with a squaw or a baby when they were down at the river, washing, their clothing. And then they would find bones, which tells me then, hey, they're cannibals. But again, are Bigfoot actually humanoid, or are they something? Because let's face it, okay? I believe that we've been visited and are being visited by different races of whatever they are out there. There's not just one alien race coming to Earth and taking people out of their bed when they're snoring and sleeping at night and transporting them on the UFO and doing experiments. I think we've been, visited a lot because we're a new planet. We're a young race. Now, these people, either if they're coming from the future or past, I mean, everybody has their own views what aliens are, okay? We don't know. Or maybe the government does know, but we don't know. Okay, you don't know. MUFON doesn't know. I think if there's enough life out there, put it this way, the planets don't stop out there. There's no void. You build a brick wall and say this is the end of a solar system. It doesn't go past this. Well, that wall takes up space. So that's something. So I think we are being visited. Now, are they here to serve man? Well, if they were here to serve man, we wouldn't have had the Vietnam War. We wouldn't have had World War I. We wouldn't have had World War II. We wouldn't have been in Iraq. We wouldn't have been in all these places. Hitler wouldn't have exterminated, tens of hundreds of thousands of people. It would have never happened because they would have stopped it. But they haven't. Okay? Tells us that whatever they're doing, maybe they're just monitoring us. Or how do we know what these creatures are? Are they lovable towards mankind? These people tell me that, they're here protecting Earth. Well, they haven't done a damn good job of protecting our planet, have they? They haven't. Okay.
No, you're not going to get any argument from me, Gary. I'm with you on most of this stuff. Really.
Well, and this is where I always get in trouble on my show. I'll say it again tonight, and by tomorrow morning, I'll have a couple hundred emails to my. Yeah. And I'll tell people, if you want to get a hold of me on this, nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. That's nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. You can sit here and yell at me all you want. I look at this. Humans eat everything they can put in their mouth, including other humans. And if you were out on a shipwreck, and if you were out on a lifeboat with 3 other people, and nobody finds you, okay, because you don't have a GPS, and you're out there bobbing and out in the ocean for 10, 15 days, now you're running out of food, you're running out of water, and then you look at that one person, maybe it's sickly, okay, and how many times has this happened in the past? They get
so many times.
They get 8 for the good of survival of the fittest. Now, again, we got cannibals yet on this planet. We eat everything, disgusting stuff. But tells me that, well, this because if we are being visited, they're not going to be watching Leave It to Beaver when they were kids. And like I said earlier, Father Knows Best or Donna Reed show. They weren't growing up like we were. Who knows how they were growing up? Were they come from an egg? Were they developed just from DNA? Who knows what they are? To them, they could be coming down here and looking at our planet as a source of minerals, okay? Or they can be looking at a source for nutrition. We don't know this, and you get all these experts on that, constantly are telling me they're here to serve mankind. Well, unless you can prove that to me, I'm not gonna take that. I really am not going to take that. And I really think that the government is in a position where they can't cover it up anymore. Not because of the internet, not because people writing books on UFOs and I'll tell you what, and now I'm going to get in trouble. I read a lot of books. There isn't a day I don't get books in my mailbox from authors. And I'll start reading a book on UFOs and aliens. I go, you know what? This sounds like this book I just read last year. And I'll go do some, yeah, they changed some words around and here's a new book. And I see that a lot in the paranormal. It's scary. But what I'm trying to say is we don't know about these cryptics, what they're here from or for. They could, like I said, they could be harvesting people. That's why we're losing people. The FBI can't trace them down. People, in the cities, counties, little towns, in the forest disappear. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's why the Park Service doesn't really go and keep records much about it or do a very deep investigation because they know what's going on. Maybe I find a lot of things going on strange now while they're starting to becoming more disclosure. Maybe, just maybe, there's something, it could be good, but maybe people need to keep their mind set. Like Stephen Hawking said, we need to stop transmitting our address out there, okay? Because we might get visited by somebody that we don't want to be visited by. And maybe that's already happened. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to go back knowing, and I brought it up last night and quite a few times. I had the opportunity in my life when I was younger to talk to Ronald Reagan because Ronald Reagan was a good friend of my dad's. Not Ronald Reagan, my dad's best friend, who was an actor, a major actor in Hollywood, was great friends with Ronald Reagan. And I talked to Ronald Reagan, and one conversation I had out of total of 3 conversations I ever had with him, I was really worried. I was like 17 or 18. I was just about ready to go in the military. And I asked him, I said, if you read the paper every day, it's talking about Russia. It could be a nuclear war. And I asked him about Star Wars. And, he said, I wouldn't be concerned about Russia, nuking us. I'd be more scared about them out there. And, being young, that didn't sink into my head till I got older. And then one day I realized He was talking about something out there. And so maybe something has been going on for years and years that they can't cover up much longer. It's going to open up. Who knows? Hey, it's no worse than anybody else with their ideas, correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've talked about this before, and we agree on a lot of this, Gary. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to get much argument from me, because like you said, really nobody's an expert. We're all just sort of, trying to put together whatever pieces of this puzzle we have, but the picture is far from complete. So, all of the speculation that, we're sort of bandying about, I think is all fair. And I'm definitely with you. When people start saying things like, they're getting messages from the Space Brothers or something.
Yeah.
I try to be objective. I do, and I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But just like what you're saying, I mean, excuse me, just like what you're saying about, people disappearing and heck, even stuff that's directly related, to this phenomenon, it doesn't match up with that touchy-feely hippie vibe that these people are talking about. I mean, when you talk about the kind of, medical experiments that are reported by abductees, when you talk about just the terror of being abducted, hell, when you talk about this fear, this primal fear that these witnesses have, that I have spoken to directly, just from having, a Mothman-like creature in their vicinity, that doesn't seem like the kind of thing that happens, when you are in contact with a benevolent being. It just doesn't. Good guys don't sneak into your house and kidnap you. It's just not what they do. Good guys don't terrify you. They don't haunt your dreams. It just seems like there is a good portion of this that is nefarious, like certainly nefarious. And, maybe some of it isn't, and that's what like I said, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. And if I'm speaking to somebody directly and that person has had a direct experience, I'm not talking about any of these so-called experts who haven't experienced anything themselves or whatever. If I'm speaking to someone in actual witness and they have had some sort of positive experience, with what they think could have been an alien or a cryptid or something like that. Now, I'm not going to tell them that they didn't, because it's not my job to dictate somebody's experience to them, and so I will take those, for what they're worth, like I would anybody else's experience. But I will tell you this, Gary, I don't get very many of those. Most of the reports, by far, most of the reports I get are from people who are scared. And they're scared because their experience was scary, because there was something about it that made them think that thing they encountered, whatever that impossible creature was that they ran into, was harmful to them, that there was something evil about it, and they could feel that in almost primal level.
And that's the scary part. When you think about it, could you imagine when you're 8 years old being abducted, and then again when you're like 10 years old, then again at 12 and 13, all the rest of your life? You go to bed at night, right? And what's going to be on your mind? It ain't going to be sex. Well, it could be. But besides the sex part, when you look at your wife or girlfriend, you're going to be scared. Am I going to be abducted again tonight? Am I going to be taken in a spacecraft? Am I going to be probed? Am I going to have needles? Am I going to have things stuffed down my throat. Even Calvin Parker, when he was on my show, he mentioned when he was taken off that dock, like two robotic creatures